entire goal, Kathy, to be scaring but empowering at the same time. So thank you. Thanks for the introduction. And I just wanted to start out by saying how excited I am to be here at the Silver Spring Time Bank, and particularly because I'm excited to find out who here wants to take action on microplastics with me. And the reason I know that there are people out here is because of the many interactions I've had with people through the Time Bank. So actually last year at the 4th Silver Spring Skillshare, I had an Ask a Recycling expert table. And that's where I met Galen Tromble, who then signed up for my food waste challenge and won first place, his household. And then also, he turns out to be the manager of the CKC Farm compost drop-off. So this is me and my friend and neighbor, Elaine, learning how to compost at CKC Farm. So lots of good things come out of the Skillshare, and I'm looking forward to see who takes on this particular plastic challenge. Also, as Kathy mentioned, if you would like to participate in a later on with a garment, feel free to go get one and come back. We can't see you right now. So to start the story of how I got into this particular topic, it actually started when I went to an event at St. Michael's Catholic Church in Silver Spring that was organized by the Interfaith Partners for the Chesapeake. And Jason, the green team leader there, turns out that he's not only a very engaged green team leader doing a lot of work on food security in our community, he's also a water expert. And I had been telling him about how I work with schools on doing these waste action projects. So I actually got invited to speak on a panel about microplastics. But I was talking about the education strategies. So what I knew about plastics and microplastics was more like, okay, we have single-use plastics. I've done some projects with schools and community members where we do these waste action projects where you count how many single-use plastic items you use and try to take action to reduce it. But it turns out that I didn't quite know everything because, oh, and I want to say, I like this slide because that I was presenting to experts on microplastics or experts in water. And my whole point was to thank them for giving me hope that we can solve these complex problems because they're the scientists who are letting us know that it's happening. And I said the first step towards solving a problem is knowing that you have one. And I thought I knew about microplastics, but I learned at this panel that actually, 60% of the microplastics in our local waterways are actually microfibers from clothing, from our laundry. So that's an issue that I hadn't even connected with. And that's where I had this idea, well, I've been doing these challenges. So actually the challenge that I mentioned that Galen's household participated in last year, we're doing it again this year. It's a home food waste challenge. And this year we're partnering with Audubon Naturalist Society. We're really focusing on teachers in schools, but anyone can make a team. So if somebody from the Time Bank wants to start a team and participate in this Earth Month challenge, that would be awesome. You can contact me. But the way that it works is it gets people engaged because you look at your own data on what you're doing. So, the first week, you take a baseline, measure how much food you're throwing away, and then you work with your team to figure out, well, what can we do about it? And then at the end, you take another week's worth of data and you say, what did we accomplish? And I thought, well, what if we did something like this? How would we even do this for microplastics and laundry? But this has been shown to be a very good way of engaging interest, but I haven't seen this done before. So I started asking this question, okay, well, what if we co-create, and I'm calling it an Everywhere Counts challenge, and we do it for Free July. So first of all, is this a good idea? If we do it, what would we measure? What would be the baseline data that we measure about ourselves? And what actions might work? So I'll just share you a little of my journey of kind of exploring these questions. So the first one, is this a good idea? Yes. But how do I know it's a good idea is because I started going back to a lot of other people and discussing it with them. And so one of the people I went back to is Dr. Jessie Myler, who actually was one of the scientists presenting at that panel about her work on measuring microplastics locally in the Chesapeake Bay. And the kind of the overall big picture um, takeaway is that microplastics, and I don't want to talk about too much about what microplastics are in the science, but they're small bits of plastic from other larger bits of plastic. And there is definitely human exposure that's negative, and it's an interesting growing global and local problem. Also, if you start going to these presentations, for example, and you look at what the types of solutions there are to the problem, there's not going to be some like one easy fix that solves it, because it's hard to take little bits of plastic out of water, and our wastewater treatment systems aren't really designed to deal with it. So a lot of the people who are doing the science are also saying things like, starting one of the major solutions is going to be looking at the sources and how do we change the sources. So I'm really excited to have experts like Dr. Jessie Myler and Dr. Anna Roebuck on our technical advisory resource for this project. Also, there's already a lot of local interest in doing this type of research and taking action, especially from high school students. So actually my social media consultant, Lila Baltax, she's a student at Wakefield High School. And when we did this like small survey of high school students, we immediately got 37 responses to some questions, and 10 of them were like, here's my email address to, we're interested in engaging. And one of them was actually a student, Hannah Lobello, who's done research on microplastics in 4 Mile Run in Arlington. So she's also on our technical advisory committee. Because she's been finding, this is actually a picture of an actual, that's what it looks like, a microfiber from clothing in our waterway. And there's also the One Montgomery Green, who has a lot of partners, including Audubon Naturalist Society, has a Clean Headwaters project where high school students are learning about the issue and also testing the water. So they're actually recruiting for students right now. So if you know high school students who might want to engage in this, please do tell them about it and have them apply. So I have 5 reasons. So this is number 2. So the third reason this is a good idea is because we can really contribute to some of the regional, national efforts on environmental education. So when I go and talk to the kind of experts and professionals working at NOAA and EPA, who've been very kind to meet with us and share their experiences, they're really interested. So it's like the science, people who are working on the science really know that this is a problem, but it hasn't quite gotten into how do we message this, in schools and to the public. So this is also an opportunity to think about, how can this project help with their larger efforts? Okay, the 4th reason is because right now, actually, there is a lot of private sector interest in solving this problem because, companies like Patagonia and REI, they have this, they want to be sustainable companies, but they also realize that this is, a lot of the clothing that they're making has made synthetic materials. So there's actually a microfiber innovation challenge right now that's more looking at big ideas on how you redesign the textile making process, but they also have a very cool challenge where you can apply to win an underwater drone. So you can tell your story. So we're totally going to apply for that. and actually a local company in Gaithersburg. So Kevin McMaster of Simgeo, he's also agreed to be a technical advisor for us. He's an expert in telling stories using data and mapping. So if we win this drone, we will have the coolest story to tell. But also, number 5 is my last one. The Silver Spring Time Bank thought this was a good topic for me to talk about. So thank you to Jay specifically for kind of getting back in touch and reminding me about the Skillshare this year. This is Jay showing me this, earning an hour by giving me a tour of the very cool composting program at Eastern Village Co-housing. So I told him we were going to use this picture sometime. So there we go. But yeah, thank you so much to the organizers and everyone who's here and who participates in the Time Bank, because actually, I mean, as a small business as well as just a community member, there are so many ways that I have benefited from different interactions. Okay, so we're almost at the interactive part. So the second part is, well, okay, so if we think this is a good idea, what is it that we would measure? So in the challenges that I've done for school so far, it was usually very clear, what we like for the food waste challenge, you have a thing and you put your food waste in it. But it's a lot harder to measure, like, what is my microfiber coming out of your laundry? We're not really going to be able to really measure that. We're going to have to find some sort of, proxy for thinking about that. And to some extent, the exact measurements aren't so much the point as the point is to get people engaged in thinking about it, right? Because the point of the food waste challenge is also not to measure your food waste, right? It's to trigger that thought process of, oh, what am I doing? And is there something that I might be doing different? So we started by, and when I say we and all my technical advisors, and we're experimenting on ourselves a little bit. So if you are interested in this kind of experimentation on yourself, feel free to let us know. But so what are some of the questions that we're asking? So first of all, like what are we wearing? What is in our clothes? And I don't usually think as much about what I'm going to wear to a presentation as I did for this presentation. Well, maybe I should. So what I'm wearing right now, I actually don't know what it's specifically made out of, because I actually bought the fabric in Indonesia. So it's a cool batik fabric, but I don't know what it's made out of. And then I had it made in India by somebody who used my measurements. So this was my coolest item of clothing, I thought, to share. But the point is, most of my clothes, I can try to figure out what it is. So I thought I would stop screen sharing right now in case anybody has gotten a garment and would like to participate in reading the label and putting it in the chat. And the other thing I would love to do, if you guys don't feel shy, would be to take a screenshot of people in gallery view showing their items of clothing. It's an experiment. I don't know how people are going to react to this. So I can show you some of the things that I brought, for example.
Oh, Beth,
so some of the things Kathy. Yeah, hi, Kathy.
I was going to say, somebody popped in the chat and said they have 2-ply cotton dobby. And that was MC. And Daphne says, I can't show my video, but mine is 100% cotton. Elaine says she has 100% acrylic sweater on.
Oh, I don't even know acrylic. Yeah, see, every time, now I have to look that up. Like, what is that?
Gloria says she has 100% polyester robe.
Okay.
I have a quick question for you, Beth.
Okay, yeah.
And Dwight is saying you can now all share your videos if you want to
Oh,
get a
sorry, I
screen
should have told
capture.
Dwight. Thanks, Dwight.
Thanks, Dwight.
Give the tech person a heads
My
up
quick question
before
is,
you do these things.
oh, so you'll see sheets that say they're bamboo sheets or made 100% from bamboo. Isn't that polyester?
You know, yeah, I don't know. I'm taking a note on that because
Yeah, there's something misleading about that. All right, you got a bunch more material mixes coming in the chat. So Michelle
wow. So
has
this is
60%
my survey.
cotton. Yeah, 40% polyester. Kelly has
Oh.
merino wool, 100%. Another garment, 60% wool, 20 cotton, 20 nylon. And Jonathan has 100% cotton robe. What fibers shed less? Asked Tanya.
Ooh, you know, that's actually, that's kind of like $1 million question for this type of project, right? And I don't know. And well, it's kind of like the two questions of which fibers are synthetic versus cotton, and then of those, which shed less. So I'm actually looking at the research to find out that question, but I would love if anyone has found that particular research. I found some documents about, well, I'll share a little bit of data on that. But yeah, it's interesting. So some people have, so Tanya, we can totally follow up on that question. Okay, we've got some 100% cotton. We have some mixes of things. We've got a wool, that's interesting. And just to throw out a couple other ones that kind of what I've found when I'm doing this. So one of the things that this is my base layer that lets me go running when it's cold. And it's from, my brother gifted it to me from Patagonia. And it's 100% recycled polyester. So on the one, right, that sounds good, it's recycled, but it's still polyester. So a lot of things that have this kind of high performance athletic stuff, that's what tends to be the more synthetic type fibers. Then, a lot of the stuff that I have from, say, India, these types of lighter weight clothing, these tend to be more 100% cotton. But now there's actually a lot that are these blends. So even my jeans that I thought, oh, denim's 100% cotton, is not necessarily, actually. I've looked at my jeans and okay, now it's some sort of a blend. So thank you for participating in this. You can see, and then you can look at where's it from. It's got a lot of different countries. So yeah, all of the clothing marketed to your kids tends to be that kind of blend. Ooh, even more, Kathy said terrifying. I have a friend I was telling about this, and she mentioned glitter, right? She's a parent, and all the kids want glitter on their clothes. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna be that environmentalist. It's like, no, we know glitter, like, to their kids. Anyway, thank you for participating in that with me. I have a couple more. Here, let me go back to just like a few of the other questions. So there's that question of what are we wearing? And then there's the question of what are we washing? And so I've started to, the side benefit of this is it makes washing a lot, laundry is a much more interesting task now than it used to be. So this is just, one load of laundry for me. I took 2 weeks, it was about 11 pounds. I started saying, well, maybe I'll divide it into mostly synthetic, mostly cotton things. This is where I started looking at the research that says, average heading by weight, number of households, laundry loads per household. But this one is also more related to Tanya's question of the shedding. So it turns out that the amount of shedding also depends on, how you wash it. So for example, I actually started hand washing my, that base layer because hand washing is different from machine washing. The machine washing really, makes more shedding than hand washing. Also, you might notice these strange items. So I live in the Blairs in Silver Spring, and so it's an apartment complex, and we make a big deal out of our LEED certified building. There's actually a laundry drop-off service that I don't use that I need to learn more about, this dry drop thing, but I use the laundry machines in the laundry room. And this is a product that is supposed to act like coral to like remove fibers that you can put in your laundry machine. And then you see this bag here. It's actually this Guppy Friend washing bag that you're supposed to be able to put your clothes in and to capture the fibers before they get out of your own washing machine. There's like real science research that says these do things, but I'm still trying to figure out, like, I don't see anything. like, I don't know. Also, I noticed that both of these products are made out of plastic. So it's not a criticism, it's just an observation that it's a big problem. so, so those are the kind of things that an individual household could choose to do if we want to change how we're washing things. There's also the temperature changes how much things shed. So cold water makes it shed less than if you use hot water. And I also, as you're here from presentation, think about like, am I normal? I don't know. So you can think about how you do your laundry, but in our little very unscientific survey with some high school students, 70% of them said that they do their own laundry, which I thought was great. but but this also, when you're doing a challenge, it's like, well, who's making the decisions, right? People do their own laundry. How often do people do their laundry? Also, do you have control over how your laundry gets done? Where do you wash your clothes? Is it your own machine? Is it somewhere else? So we just are starting to kind of ask different people these types of questions. And I'd love to know what you all do. But so also the last question is thinking about, once we figure out what we want to measure, like what actions should we even recommend to people? Like what actions would work? And this is really something we won't even know this until we try things and until we do our challenge. But we do want to have some idea, and we want that idea to really be informed by science and our local experts. So one of the things that's kind of interesting and challenging about water is it's going to be different locally, what the actual solutions are. And so I've been asking this question, where does my water come from? Where does it go? And everyone should go on the website of WSSC, and they have these beautiful story maps about, where the wastewater goes and where your drinking water comes from. And actually, the Montgomery County Department of the Environment also has, a map that you can look at to find for, your own, you can put your address in and find out which watershed you're in. So on this project, when I'm thinking about like teams, I'm thinking like watersheds, right? Because we need to, it's a problem that's going to have to be solved, kind of understanding what is happening in each of our like specific watersheds. So my last kind of thing I'm throwing out to you all is this is just the beginning of our like brain dump that we're working on of where are the decision points, right? So if you're thinking about as an action project, it's like, well, what things can I individually do, right? Or can we individually all do in our own lives? But then the next step is to thinking about, well, especially with this problem, you start going, it's so big. They're making clothes in this way. Maybe there's things that we can't individually change in our lives, but by talking, by doing it together, we can maybe start trying to influence some of the decisions that other people are making. And so part of that could be, advocating for change from some of the companies that are making the clothes. Another level that I think is really interesting, especially for this kind of community level, is things that you might be able to do on more of an organizational wide, or like say a building. So for example, I'm interested in, I need to talk to my building property managers to see, well, what about, um, they have, there is a product you can like attach to the laundry machine. So it's something that if you're an individual homeowner, you can put something between your machine and the plumbing that catches the lint, but then you have to maintain it. So I don't even know if that's something that people would want to do. But you know, if you're say a college and students are doing laundry centrally, could students organize and ask for something like that? Or I even, one of the ideas that a school came up with when I was talking to Noah and the Ocean Guardian Schools program is like, when a school buys gym uniforms, what are they made out of and how are they washing them? And so that's something I hadn't even really thought about as a level that you could work on this. So um, I would actually love to talk to you all about that picture, you know, like what, where you might want to do actions. But I just wanted to end with saying the same thing. Thank you for giving me hope, right? So the scientists give me hope because they're telling us, they're finding out that this is a problem we need to do something about. But being able to engage with people like you all and so many people in this community, I just, the second step towards solving this problem is finding the people who are going to help figure it out together. So if you want to further this discussion, please feel free to message me through the time bank. I'm on the time bank. Or you can come to my website at recycleleaders.com, and that will let you get in touch.
Right. Thank you, Beth. So we've got a few questions and comments in the chat.
Yeah.
We have a couple minutes before our next speaker. So Daphne says, maybe dependent on the country, but how much of material content labeling is regulated? Like if it says 100% cotton, is it 100% cotton?
That's a great, that's, I will take a note of that and now try to look that up. So I'm not actually sure.
Okay. And then Andrea said, how does detergent impact shedding and water quality? Are you looking at that? She says she uses Eco Egg detergents and dryer products.
You know, that's actually one where I realized I hadn't been thinking as much about detergents. So like my one track mind was like, oh, I learned this thing about the clothing. But I'm not even mentioning what's in the detergents. That is a question that I want to know the answer to. So like I've started using drops because they're plastic free and, you know, are the amount, or they're low toxic, right? But I don't know. So now if you say you're using Eco Egg, I would love to know what they say about it. And actually, it's one of the things that has been on my list of things to do is to say like, okay, these people who say they're the green detergents, like, have they looked into this? Do they know the answer to this question? So thanks for asking that.
Great.
And then
And
I
then
saw the
Tanya,
question about the Guppy Friend bag.
yes.
So
Yeah,
yes,
Tanya asked about
this
that.
is actually what it is.
Ah,
Um, and it has like, it says stop microplastics at the top. So you're supposed to zip it. And actually, I didn't know this but when I watched a video about how to use it, they actually say you're only supposed to put halfway full. So
yeah.
it's actually not, like, if you're only putting it halfway full and you think of doing a whole load of laundry, it's not that big.
Beth, can you go ahead and stop your screen sharing and then everybody can see your bag?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, sure.
And we just have about 30 seconds left. So Beth is going to hold up that bag for us. And that's the Guppy Friend.
Guppy Friend bag.
Cool. And got a lot of comments saying, thank you for giving us hope. Thanks for raising these questions. You're doing wonders. And yeah, raising our consciousness and making us think about the whole cycle from beginning to end. And thank you again, Beth.
Well, I look forward to the other presentations. So.
Cool. Thanks.